I've never been someone who goes looking for drama. Honestly, I always tried to be the good kid. Straight A's, never miss curfew, the whole deal. But sometimes life decides to drop a grenade in your lap, and all you can do is watch the pieces fly. It started at Thanksgiving when I was 17. My granddad had been drinking, which wasn't unusual, but that night he turned to me and said, "You know you're not really blood, right?" The room went dead silent. My parents froze mid-bite, and my sister choked on her pie. My mom forced a laugh and said, "Dad, your dementia's acting up again." But her hands were shaking. I'd never seen her scared before. They refused to talk about it after that, not a word. Just respect your grandfather's condition and let it go. But I couldn't. I spent nights Googling adoption signs, stupid things like, do I look like my parents? Spoiler, I didn't. After 3 months of their stonewalling, I snuck into my dad's home office. I'd never invaded their privacy like that, but I needed answers. Buried under tax files and expired warranties, I found a sealed court document. My adoption was closed, finalized 2 days after I was born. My birth mother's name was blacked out. Confronting them was messy. My dad yelled about betrayal, saying I'd ruin everything by digging. My mom cried into her hands, repeating, "We're your real family." They canceled my 18th birthday party the next week, saying I needed to reflect on loyalty. That's when I knew I had to leave. I moved into my friend's basement, working 2 retail jobs to save up. The DNA test cost nearly half my paycheck, but 3 weeks later, I got a match. A cousin named Jess. She told me my bio mom, Claire, had spent years searching for me. When Claire's first letter arrived, I sat at my car, holding it for an hour, staring at the return address. She wrote about being 16, pressured into adoption by her parents and the agency. She included photos, us with the same crooked smile, the same birthmark shaped like a crescent moon on our left shoulders. Meeting her felt like stepping into a mirror. We met at a diner, and she brought a shoebox of things she'd saved. My hospital bracelet, a lock of my hair, a Polaroid of her holding me minutes after I was born. She kept saying, "I've missed you so much," and I didn't know how to respond. I wasn't angry, just hollow, like I'd been living in a house with invisible walls. My adoptive mom found Claire's letters when she packed up my old room. She called me screaming, "After everything we gave you." I tried to explain I wasn't replacing them, but she hung up. 2 days later, my sister texted that I'd been uninvited from her wedding. The official reason? Distracting from family unity. Claire's parents invited me over the following week. Her dad hugged me so hard my ribs ached, and her mom kept smoothing my hair, crying. It was overwhelming, but for the first time, I felt seen. Not the good kid, just me. That's when my adoptive dad texted, "If you choose them, don't come crawling back." I didn't reply. Therapy helped, but only a little. Paying out of pocket meant I could only go every other week, and I spent most sessions staring at the ceiling fan, trying to untangle guilt from grief. Was I wrong for wanting answers? For needing more than because we said so? Claire never pushed me to cut ties, but when her health started failing, she admitted she delayed cancer treatment to focus on us. "I lost you once," she said. "I couldn't risk it again." I'm still figuring out what family means. My adoptive parents think love is a debt, something you owe. Claire thinks it's a choice. Me, I'm just trying to breathe. I don't know if I'm the asshole for wanting the truth. Maybe I am, but I can't unsee the court papers. I can't unhear Claire's voice breaking when she said my name. All I know is that silence got us here, and I'm done being quiet. Now for the first update. 3 months ago, I posted about finding out I was adopted and the nuclear fallout with my parents. A lot of you asked for updates, so here's where things stand. Though honestly, I'm still processing most of it. After I moved out, my adoptive mom started mailing me things. Not the stuff you'd expect, like childhood keepsakes or sweaters I'd left behind. Just photos. The first envelope had a picture of me blowing out candles at my 6th birthday party, back when I still believed we were a normal family. On the back, she'd written, "Remember who raised you," in her tight school teacher cursive. I shoved it in a drawer. It felt less like a reminder and more like a warrant. Claire's chemo started around then. The first time I drove her, she made jokes about the wig she'd bought. It's giving 90s soap villain, right? But her hands kept fluttering to her throat, like she was checking her pulse. I didn't know how to help, so I just showed up. Brought her ginger candies for the nausea. Learned how to read the labyrinth of her medical charts. She'd nap in the passenger seat on the way home, and I'd take back roads to avoid potholes. Once, she woke up halfway and mumbled, "You get your stubbornness from me, you know." I almost swerved into a ditch. My sister tracked me down through Venmo. She'd always been the golden child, cheer captain, married her high school sweetheart, the whole suburban blueprint. Meeting her at that Starbucks felt like a trap. She kept glancing at the door, stirring her latte long after the sugar dissolved. "They told me you were a cousin," she said finally. "When you were born, Mom said Aunt Linda had a situation." The word situation landed like a brick. She wouldn't look at me after that, just traced the rim of her cup with a chipped manicure. When her phone buzzed, probably her husband, she bolted so fast she left her scarf. I still have it. Claire's family reunion was my breaking point. She'd been admitted to the hospital the night before for a fever, but she insisted I go without her. "Tell them about us," she said, squeezing my hand. Her skin was papery, warm. I stood in a stranger's backyard holding a plastic plate of potato salad, surrounded by people who hugged me like we'd known each other forever. An aunt showed me Claire's senior yearbook. Same crinkled eyes, same head tilt. When I mentioned Claire was sick, her childhood friend pulled me aside and said, "That woman survived worse than this." I almost believed her. My speech was a train wreck. I'd written bullet points on a napkin, but halfway through I forgot how sentences worked. Someone handed me a handkerchief, monogrammed JMR, our shared initials, and I realized I was sobbing into the mic. Later, Claire's dad told me she'd made him promise to record the whole thing. "She's watching it on loop in the hospital," he said, grinning, "thinks you're a natural." The backlash hit fast. A second cousin posted reunion pics online, and by morning, my adoptive mom had texted, "You're dead to us." My sister's number went straight to voicemail. When I finally reached her husband, he said she needed space to stay neutral, which I guess is code for pretending I don't exist. Work became my refuge. Stocking shelves at the hardware store let me focus on tangible things. Screws sorted by size, paint cans in neat rows. Then my adoptive parents showed up during my shift. Mom stood by the rat poison display, gripping a quart of stain remover like a weapon. Dad cut right to it. "You're humiliating us." His voice didn't even rise, just cold, steady shame. My boss, Marta, materialized with a clipboard, saying, "Need me to call security?" Later, she told me she'd been adopted too. "Closed records," she said, shrugging. But blood's not the only thing that leaves scars. She started giving me weekends off for Claire's appointments. The universe kept swinging. My car died outside a Waffle House. I was ready to sell a kidney for Uber money, but Claire's brother lent me his old truck. Wouldn't even let me pay for gas. "Family tax," he said, tossing me the keys. The truck smelled like hay and gasoline. I cried the whole drive home. Then came the second letter. Claire had written it years ago, begging the adoption agency to let her contact me. They'd sent it after my 16th birthday. "I don't want to disrupt her life," she'd written, "but she deserves to know where she comes from." My adoptive parents must have intercepted it. I sat on my apartment floor, reading it 7-8 times until the words blurred. Claire's handwriting slanted forward, like she was racing to outrun her own desperation. Adoptive dad left voicemails after that, always at night, always when he'd been drinking. "We can fix this," he'd say, "if you just..." The sentence would trail off, swallowed by ice clinking in a glass. Once, he called her "that woman." Another time, "your real mom." I saved them all, not sure why. Maybe to prove I didn't imagine the cracks. Claire's health stabilized in May. She immediately started nagging me to study for my GED. "I didn't fight this hard for you to stock shelves forever," she said, swatting my arm with a People magazine. I bought a prep book the next day. The legal stuff blindsided me. My friend Tanya, law school dropout, true crime addict, noticed the dates on my adoption papers. "Wait, this says petition to adopt, not finalized." She spent an hour squinting at scans on her laptop. Turns out my parents never completed the process. I'm still not a legal daughter. Tanya thinks I could challenge it, but all I feel is numb. What's the point? They're still my parents, even when they're monsters. I don't know where this ends. Claire talks about beach trips once she's stronger. My sister's due date looms like a threat. Mom's texts have stopped, but sometimes I catch a car like hers idling outside my building. I wave just in case. Maybe none of us get the family we deserve. But I'm starting to think we get the family we fight for. The ones who show up, even when it's messy, even when it hurts. I'm not asking for permission anymore. Just witnesses. Now for the second update. 6 months ago, I shared how meeting my bio mom Claire unraveled my life. Since then, things have shifted. Not healed, not fixed, just different. Claire's cancer came back harder. I'd stay overnight at the hospital, folding myself into those vinyl recliners that stick to your skin. She'd wake up disoriented, asking if I'd eaten. One time, she tried to bribe a nurse into bringing me pudding cups. "She's too thin," Claire whispered like I couldn't hear. I lost my weekend job at the hardware store because I kept calling out, but Marta, my boss, held the manager's spot open. "You've got priorities," she said. I didn't tell her I cried in the break room. The fundraiser surprised me. Claire's cousins set it up without asking. "Help Claire fight," in bold, cheesy font. Donations poured in from people I'd never met. Then I saw an anonymous contribution for $500. The timestamp matched when my adoptive dad usually drinks his morning coffee. I didn't know whether to laugh or throw my phone. Adoptive mom ambushed us at the hospital. Claire was mid-sentence, telling me about her college roommate when the door slammed open. Mom stood there in her church blazer, lipstick smeared. "You stole her," she hissed at Claire. Security came fast, but not before Claire said quiet and firm, "She was never yours to keep." Mom's face, God, it was like watching a building collapse. A package arrived the next week. No return address. Inside my old journal from 7th grade. The cover had unicorn stickers, but every page where I'd written Mom was scribbled over so violently, the paper tore. I showed it to Claire. She traced the marks with her thumb and said, "Fear makes people cruel." I wanted to scream. She's not afraid, she's just mean. But Claire's calm felt like a life raft. I held onto it. My sister called while I was boiling noodles. Her voice was all static, like she was cupping the receiver. "Mom's not leaving her room," she said. "Dad says it's your fault." I pictured Mom's vanity. Perfume bottles lined up like soldiers, the framed cross-stitch that read, "Family is forever." "Is that why you're really calling?" I asked. The line went dead. Claire's last good day was June 14th. She demanded lemon ices from the gas station, even though the doctor said no sugar. We sat on her porch swing, sticky hands and all. She talked about the Oregon coast, how she'd collect seashells for me. "We'll go when I'm better," she said. I nodded, memorizing the way the sun hit her hair, gray roots growing in, soft and stubborn. She died 3 days later. The hospital called at 3 a.m. I drove there in Bio-Uncle's truck, still in pajamas. Her hands were warm when I held them. The nurse said she'd gone in her sleep, peaceful. All I could think was, did she dream about the ocean? Her funeral was small. Bio family hugged me, strangers who knew me better than my own parents. Adoptive Mom and Dad lurked by the exit, faces like stone. Dad's tie was crooked. Mom's purse matched her shoes. They left before I could reach them. Claire's mom pressed a ring into my palm, a simple silver band engraved "For my daughter." It slid onto my finger like it had been waiting. 2 days later, an email from Dad. Subject line, "Opportunity." He offered full tuition if I'd stop this nonsense and come home. I replied with a photo of Claire's ring. He didn't write back. Marta promoted me to manager. The raise let me rent a studio near Claire's parents. Bio grandma helped me paint the walls yellow because Claire hated beige. I've never felt more like myself. Then the diagnosis. My sister showed up sobbing, mascara rivers down her cheeks. "Mom's sick," she said. "Early Alzheimer's, you have to see her." I didn't want to. Bio grandpa drove me, his knuckles white on the wheel. "You can leave anytime," he said. Mom didn't recognize me, or maybe she did. She gripped my hand, called me sweet girl, hummed a lullaby I'd forgotten. Dad hovered, jaw clenched. "She's having good days and bad," he said. I wondered which one I was. After my sister dropped the bomb, "She's pregnant." "I want you at the baby shower," she said. "But Mom and Dad..." She didn't finish. I gave her Claire's old copy of Goodnight Moon, the one with her name scribbled inside. "For the baby," I said. She took it like a grenade. Claire's will left me her house. It smells like her, vanilla and antiseptic. I'm selling it to fund free cancer screenings at the community center. The realtor said to declutter, but I can't part with her coffee mug yet. It says "World's Okayest Nurse." I don't know what happens now. Mom's fading, Dad's emails are getting desperate, and my niece or nephew will be here by Christmas. Claire's gone, but her ring leaves marks on my finger when I twist it. Proof I existed to someone. Maybe closure's a myth. Maybe all we get are these jagged edges cutting us as we hold on. But I'm done letting other people tell me who I'm allowed to love. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Sometimes just saying it out loud makes the weight easier to carry. Now for the final update. It's been a year since Claire died. A year of trying to stitch myself back together while everyone else keeps pulling the threads. My sister showed up at my studio last spring, her belly just starting to round. She held a manila envelope like it might bite her. "They kept letters," she said. "Mom and Dad, Claire wrote to you for years." The envelope crinkled as I took it. Inside were scans of letters, birthdays, holidays, even my high school graduation. All returned unopened, stamped addressee unknown. I sat on the floor, knees to my chest, and my sister hovered by the door like she was waiting for permission to leave. "They were scared," she whispered. I wanted to ask, of what? Losing me? Or finally being caught? I drove to Dad's house. He answered in sweatpants, a stain on his shirt. I thrust the scans at him. "You lied?" He didn't flinch. "The agency messed up," he said. "They never forwarded them." But his eyes darted to the mantel, a photo of me at 6, missing teeth, holding a soccer trophy. I remembered that day. Dad carried me on his shoulders yelling, "That's my girl!" Now he just muttered, "We did what we thought was right." Claire's house held more secrets. In her attic, a locked box under moth-eaten blankets. Inside, every letter she'd sent me, returned with "Return to sender" in Mom's perfect cursive. My 5th birthday. "I bet you love dinosaurs now." I found a T-Rex plushie. My 16th. "Happy sweet 16. I still can't listen to Taylor Swift without crying." I read them in the yellow kitchen, sunlight pooling on the linoleum. The community screening started small. local church basements, folding chairs, free coffee. Then the news picked it up. A reporter asked why I did it. Claire fought to know me, I said. Now I'm fighting for others. The segment ended with a photo of us at the coast, squinting in the wind. That night, Dad texted, "Proud of you." I didn't reply. His apology came in July. He stood on my porch, gripping a grocery bag of my old stuff, baseball gloves, a dried corsage. Your mother's illness, it made me realize how stubborn I've been. I let him in. He cried when Bio-Grandma showed him Claire's senior yearbook, her grin identical to mine. "She loved you," he said, like it was a revelation. My niece arrived in August. The family group chat blew up. Photos of a wrinkly blob wrapped in pink. "Aunt, my name," the caption read. Mom and Dad didn't react. Sister FaceTimed me, exhausted but glowing. "She has your nose," she said. I didn't mention Claire's ring tucked in my drawer, ready for the baby's 18th birthday. We scattered Claire's ashes in September. Bio cousins rented a van, packed it with sunflowers and a cooler of LaCroix. The coast was windy, the kind that whips hair into your mouth. Her best friend, Linda, told stories about Claire streaking through a frat house in '99. We laughed until the ashes blew back into our faces. I kept a handful in an Altoids tin. Claire would have rolled her eyes. At the grocery store, Mrs. Peters from Mom's church cornered me by the avocados. "She asks for you every night," she said. "Calls out your name." I froze, picturing Mom in her floral nightgown, wandering halls lined with photos of a daughter she pretends not to remember. That's when I knew. The Alzheimer's wasn't the villain here. She was. Volunteering at the adoption agency felt like penance. I hold babies while exhausted parents fill out paperwork. One couple asked, "How do we make sure he never feels unwanted?" I almost said, "Lie better than my parents did." Instead, I told them, "Keep the receipts, all of them." Passing my GED was quieter than I expected. Bio-grandparents took me to Denny's, ordered pancakes shaped like smiles. They hung the diploma next to Claire's degree in their hallway. "2 generations of stubborn," Bio-grandpa said. I touched the glass frame, half waiting for her to materialize and steal my bacon. Then the slip-up. Sister's husband, drunk at a barbecue, mumbled, "Mom's faking the Alzheimer's. It's early stage. She just doesn't want to face you." The burger in my hand dripped onto my shoes. I texted Dad, "Tell her to admit what she did, or I'm gone." He replied, "She can't, not won't. Can't." Claire's birthday was yesterday. I left a lemon icy melting on her grave. The headstone reads, "Beloved Mother," but I used a Sharpie to add in professional pain in the ass. The wind carried my whisper. "I got my GED. I'm manager now. I still hate coconut." A jogger side-eyed me. "Let them." Dad texts every Sunday. "How's work? Saw a cardinal today. Thought of you." I send back emojis, sunflowers, waves, a thumbs up. Mom's silence is a bruise I keep pressing. Maybe one day I'll forgive them. Maybe I won't. But Claire's ashes are in the ocean. My ring leaves a tan line, and somewhere, a baby girl is chewing on a book with my name inside. That's enough for now.